Okay, so today's topic is education and affirmative action. I thought it was really relevant right now because there's been so many changes in education. I know we've all been watching what's been happening in Florida, what's happened with affirmative action. I mean, education is always relevant and it's definitely a big topic uh, in the Black community, but I think especially right now, there's a lot of changes going on. So I really wanted to talk about it because I haven't been happy with what I'm seeing. Literally feels like we're going backwards in time with some of the changes that have been happening due to the Supreme Court votes. So, yeah. Anybody want to start off with anything before we get started? Mm. Okay. Oh, there was one more thing too. So I told you guys about a fundraiser, and I do want to do that fundraiser, and I found a thing that we could all donate to. So there is this program called The Way to Justice that my mentor works at. I'm going to link their website. Just give me 1 second. Sorry, I'm so unprepared today. It's been a day. Okay. Here is the website. And so I was gonna ask what you guys thought. Like I could collect donations and then just give it to them because I work next to their office, or I could just like send you guys this link here and you can also just do it on your own if that makes you more comfortable. But basically, the Way to Justice is a Black-owned business, and they help people with post-conviction help basically. So like re-entering into society, getting relicensed and everything like that. And they really aim to focus on the Black community's needs, especially. And it's just a really great organization. I hope to work for them one day, honestly. Admitting someone else in. But yeah, I just think it's really important, like the work that they're doing. And I love that it's Black owned. And it's, we all know how hard it can be for people to re-enter into society after being in prison, and people of color fill prisons more than anyone else. So I thought it was a good cause to donate to. And yeah, I just want to try to collect as much donations as possible by the end of August, I think is what I'm going to do. And I'll make a post about this on my Instagram page so that we can all remember this. But yeah, anybody have any comments on that? Mom, was that a hand raise or was that a clap? Or Trey and Mom, I can't
They're
tell.
claps.
Oh,
They're
okay.
claps.
Got it. But yeah, I'm really excited that I figured it out because I've been wanting to do something like that for a while, and like discussions are really important, and this is like a really like safe space and everything, but I also want to put actions behind things as well. So I'm glad we have it picked out, and I'll do a post and everything like that. Like I said, bring it up at the next Zoom session also. And then another thing is that I was thinking of cutting down the amount of Zooms that I do. When I start law school, it's probably just going to be smarter anyways. But also, I feel like there's certain times where we don't get as much participation, which I get, like people are super busy. And so I just feel like we would have better luck if we did a few less, and then, people make it to them more. And I could actually like reach out and make sure people will be there, so it's not um as chaotic, I feel like. So I hope that's okay with everyone, and maybe I'll bump it up again if we start getting more participation, but I think it would take stress off me too, honestly. So and if anybody else ever wants to like do a specific topic, like I said, let me know. Or if you want to even host one, let me know. I can make you the host too. So yeah, this is just, I want it to be a really chill, open space for everyone's voices to be heard. But anyways, onto the topic. It's education. And so I'm going to start, and then Trey is going to speak, and then Genesis, and we'll all just have a discussion, obviously. But for me, I'm going to talk about affirmative action. So let me pull up my thing. Sorry, I lost it. Okay, so by a vote of 6-3, the Supreme Court ended the use of affirmative action in college admissions. And so that's like been a really big thing in the media right now. And this one post I saw I wanted to share with you guys. It said that although they were rolling back affirmative action in colleges, they carved out an exemption to race conscious admissions for military academies still. So people were saying, that shows where they value Black and brown bodies, because they don't want to see affirmative action in higher education. But when it comes to our military, they still want that to be diverse. And so that honestly just like said a lot to me and made me even more mad about the decision. Affirmative action has been really controversial in general, even in the Black community. Like, a lot of people don't think it's the right solution. They don't like it because it's only a small bandage over a huge problem, which I do agree with. But I mean, I would say it's better than nothing, which is what we have now. And so it was a step, at least in my mind. And I'm just starting to actually learn a lot about it. And in one of my classes, I read this article that I was going to share with you guys. I'm going to link it here. This was African American politics, a course that I took. But I really like the article because it highlights like myths about affirmative action, because a lot of people have the wrong idea about it. For example, they felt like it took away positions from white people. A lot of the time, that's what you hear in college. But this article tells you that white women are the ones that benefit most from affirmative action. So that was like surprising to me because I had no clue about that. So it really did make a difference for women and minorities. There's like a bunch of stats in this article too. I'm not gonna like say the whole thing, but about how it increased jobs and things like that for the Black community and women as well, like I said. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to bring this topic up because I think it's really relevant, and I wanted to hear everyone's thoughts on affirmative action, because I'm still kind of split about it. And obviously, it's still, like I said, it was better than nothing. So it's still a hurtful decision, but I know like there's a better way to handle the issue anyways. And I don't exactly know what that would be, if anybody has ideas. So yeah, opening it up for anyone. Any thoughts? No thoughts? Mm-mm. And yeah, what was also surprising is it says like actually most of the public supported affirmative action. So I think it's just another example of how our government doesn't really represent us the best. Like, it's supposed to be a representative body, but a lot of the decisions we haven't been happy with. I mean, same thing with how we get a different popular vote from the electoral vote in elections. Like, so I think that's also really a problem, and it specifically harms people of color a lot. Trey?
Hello. I feel as though our government does not represent us well at all. Even though they put stuff in our face like, oh, we had a Black president, we have a Black vice president. Even though you do things like that, I feel as though, in one of the most highest positions of power in the government, the decisions that still constantly made in this country and the institutional background and how it still kind of affects us to this day, it kind of shows that, no change, no great change has still really been made, because now we kind of are forced to deal with the problems that we faced years ago. It's still the same issues. People were arguing about affirmative action in the 90s, 80s, and 90s, and even before then. Um, So yeah, my personal opinion on it, I don't feel as though you say white women benefit the most from it. I can absolutely believe that. And I can kind of be on the fence about it as well. But in the same breath, I don't really feel like as a whole, it necessarily does much for us. It helps a small fraction of us, because you still have to think, okay, there's still these jobs, even though there's these things like affirmative action in place, these jobs, they are still racially biased. These companies are still racially biased, and they will still discriminate. They will find a way to discriminate against minorities and women, and et cetera. They will still find a way to discriminate against us. So I feel as though, it's not necessarily in this country. It's not necessarily surprising that we don't have the protection or the backing of the government, because this is seems to be a repetitive issue that we keep having and we keep seeing. And yeah, so that's my opinions on it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I definitely was not surprised by the decision. And like you said, it's been an argument for so long. Um, Especially with the abortion thing that just happened, like I feel like we're just going further and further away from where we came. So yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said. Genesis?
I was just gonna add on that, like, personally for me, like, I think it is like, I do see what people are saying in the step in the right direction, but it just still kind of feels like, why would you go all the way to like that level of career and not start off in the communities? Because like, just because now you're saying like, oh, there's going to be more opportunities when you graduate high school, well, what are you doing in those smaller communities to make sure those children still believe that they can go to high school or go to college and go to these bigger jobs and stuff? Because I feel like right now, and speaking of education, in school they don't really, like, in those lower income communities, don't really talk about like how successful you can be as a person of color. And I feel like they just straight went to like, but look, we did this, look, like we made sure this is good, so when you do graduate high school, like, you have like this set up for you. But in reality, what are you doing to show those kids that they can go and they can be successful? Because personally, I feel like if I grew up in a community where everyone told me that I was only going to stay in that community for the rest of my life and I wasn't going to be successful, that it wouldn't really matter if you told me that now there's more of an opportunity to go to college, because I'd be like, well, what's the point? I never really tried because I thought I was going to be here for the rest of my life. So although I do see that they're trying, quote unquote, I still feel like they're not focusing on the right things, and they're just trying to be like, yeah, we took a lot of rights and privileges over here, but look over here and see what we are doing to be, more racially inclusive. But in reality, it's not.
That's such a good point, Genesis. And I guess that kind of answers my question of like, what would be a better solution? Because like affirmative action doesn't get to the root of the issue. And then also, like you said, it doesn't really hold anyone accountable. I feel like they're kind of like, oh, we did this, like, cool, we don't have to do anything else. So yeah, I definitely agree. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Z?
No, sorry, I'm not feeling good today, so my voice is like very bad. But I'm disagreeing with Genesis, especially when they throw kids in college, like first generation from low income communities. It's like they're just throwing in. They get no help. They don't understand the financial aid. They don't know understand like the classes, et cetera, et cetera. So they're making all these big actions, but these little ones too affect us as well. And I don't think they understand that. And like she said, like, oh, we did something, so we're going to sit back and chill. You guys have to do everything else by yourself, which is totally unacceptable. We know that this whole system is built for white people, and they know that too. And so they know that those numbers are going to be so mixed. It's not going to be the same. It's not going to be higher. It's going to be mixed, because you're just you're just giving a solution and then not giving any other solutions to those smaller problems. That was a good point.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like how the Way to Justice does like the, what's it called, post conviction, like helping people re-enter into society. There should be like a post high school type of program for these people to like help get everyone that knowledge. Because you're right, Z, like a lot of people don't have that, honestly.
Yeah, and like even for those small programs here, like Eastern, like I was in the Equal Pride or whatever, it was majority white men who came from like these big schools that had money that didn't use financial aid. So I'm like, why am I here if this is supposed to be for kids who are low income communities. And there's all these white men who already have these special abilities to get through college. Like, oh, both of my parents went to college and they're paying for it. Well, that's kind of scary because my parents didn't go and I'm so confused here. And so they target the wrong people, even when they try to make those kind of small communities within those universities.
Yeah, that's so true. And I even see it even for my law school journey. Like, I mean, so many people have a leg up. They have like these $3,000 tutors and like just different things like that. And they already know what they're doing. And I'm kind of walking in blind and definitely don't have a $3,000 tutor. And yeah, it's crazy, honestly. Genesis, you were gonna say?
I was gonna say, not even to mention how scary college is in general. Like, they basically teach you nothing. Like, if we want to get super deep into America's educations, like they teach you nothing, and then they're like, okay, well, now go to college to figure out what it is that you want to do. But then, absolutely right, all those resources are flooded with people who have it all figured out. And I feel like a lot of people, even people around me, like my friends and equals, I'm like, you're not understanding the fact that like some people have to pay for other stuff too, and their parents don't have the ability to pay for those certain things. Like, I have a lot of friends who are blessed to have their parents pay for their car insurance, pay for their gas, pay for their food, pay for all that stuff, so they can use all their money for books, for school, for classes, or vice versa, where their parents pay for all the schooling and they're able to pay for all their fun extremities and stuff like that. And so I feel like if all these programs, like Z was saying, are flooded with people that can't actually relate, then you're not actually getting help. You're actually not getting those resources, because then you're in that room. And personally, I would be like embarrassed to be like, oh, your mom pays for all that? Cool. I'm not in the right room. Like, I wouldn't want to speak about what I needed help from, because then I'd be like, oh, I'm supposed to know this. Like, was somebody supposed to tell me this? Because unfortunately, like, I wasn't told that. And if I was, it was told in a way that made me feel small or like not capable. So I'd be like, okay, so I don't even want to try, because I feel like I'm not going to be able to figure it out. And then what's the point? Yeah, at that point.
Yeah, definitely. I think that also contributes to like imposter syndrome in these spaces as well. Trey says facts, HBCUs reinvesting in the community. So yeah, I think that would get more to the root of the issue that we're all talking about here, rather than something like affirmative action. I hope to see it. Maybe we can all get together and make the programs happen, do something one day. But Z, were you gonna say something?
No, I was just gonna pick it back off you, because I'm watching your law journey, and my law journey is gonna start. I take the LSAT in like 4 weeks, and my tutor has put me into these like little group chats with like first year law students. And a lot of these law students, like you said, like are getting scholarships, or like they don't need to like get this tutor. My tutor is like probably like $100. Like, they be having these top tier tutors to teach them this LSAT, and it's just like so embarrassing, because like, why am I in this group chat? Like, my tutor is like $100. Like, it's not that much. And it's just like, it's so awkward. And it's like, I'm in a position where like, I don't even want to be like, oh yeah, I don't even have the money to go to law school right now. Like, I'm going to be taking out loans. A lot of their parents are pulling out $25K from the bank and paying for the first year. Like, it's just so weird.
Yeah, definitely. Like the whole law school journey was surprising to me. I mean, I guess not surprising. They try to make it really hard, but it's especially hard for people of color, obviously. I heard like the tests they use, even the standardized tests and stuff, are like tests from military, like the way they structure it and everything like that. And so it just makes our odds way harder to get into these spaces, and then makes us uncomfortable when we do get into these spaces. But I think that's the goal, right? I mean, the recent decision kind of shows that they don't really care if we're in these spaces or not, or probably don't want us to be in these spaces, honestly. So yeah, definitely good points. Thank you, everyone. Did anybody else have anything to say? Oh, someone said something in the chat. Also, guys, real quick, I'm trying to work on, I'm trying to be a lawyer or whatever. I'm trying to work on my speaking. And even on this, like, I stutter so much and I like trip over my words, but it's really because I think so fast. And what I need to do is just take a second, gather my thoughts, and then say something. So if you guys see me doing that, feel free to send a little message in the chat for me so I can work on that, because, in court, I don't want to be stumbling over my words. But my aunt said, I feel like school counselors should be better trained to guide and give resources to low income communities, but it's difficult to get or keep great counselors because of the pay, honestly. Like, we do not give teachers enough credit. They do get really good benefits, apparently in college. Like, that's the best job you can have, is like a college professor. But like, they're really shaping students' lives, and like, they need more resources to do it, especially for students that need a little bit more help, you know? Um, my best friend Alex was a counselor for a low income charter schools in New York, and she had to leave because she couldn't afford to live while helping the kids. That's so sad. Yeah, that should never be the case. Genesis, were you gonna say something else?
I was just gonna say, like, this all kind of comes full circle to the fact that like we're not focusing on the right things. And like in schools, you know how many years that teachers been fighting to be like, listen, like I don't have the resources. And you can see it. You could literally go to any school, even in like, I live in Marysville and I went to Getchell, which is considered the nicer high school, but still like there you could tell that the teachers really had no motivation and like incentive to feel like they should try. And the ones who maybe did were like burnt out and like still we're not having a good time. And asking for funding for literally anything, even if it's stuff that like you're like, this is something we genuinely need, is so difficult. And like all of it would be resolved if we just were to better refinance our country. Like if they like focus money on the things that were really important, because they want to sit here and they want to be like, oh, like the children are our future. But I can tell you, as young as my sister who's 14 about to go to high school, they have no idea what's going on and what to do because their education system is failing them, and they have no source of resources because our parents are just as lost as we are. They're like, I don't know, like we're trying to figure it out day as day. We find out new things every single day about where our world and government's going, and unfortunately there are no people in this world who are able to like aid each other because we're all also feeling it. Like we're all like, I'm not sure. But absolutely, I agree. If we were able to just like start at the root of like all these issues and just realize like money is a big thing for us in America, but if we were better to like we better financed ourselves, we would be able to put that money in areas that definitely need it, which would, in hindsight, like bring us to better solutions and make people want to solve more of these issues and make people feel more motivated to vote and speak up. But because of all the way down to the very little guy, people don't feel motivated. They're like, well, what's the point? What's the point if I speak up? What's the point if I talk about how important this is to me? Because nobody's going to listen to me.
Yeah, definitely agree. And like you said, we have the money. Money is so important in this country. I just took a whole class on neoliberalism. There's a new word for you guys. Look it up. But like the way we run, that's basically like neoliberalism describes it perfectly, kind of goes with capitalism and everything. But also, like, why are we not putting the most money into education? Because in a democratic society, one of the like conditions, I guess, or requirements is that like we have an educated citizenry, that's a word, right? Yeah, we have an educated citizenry so we can vote properly and everything like that. So you would think we would value it more because it should be one of our first ideals here in America. But because we value money so much and put it into other things that we value more, that's just not the case, you know? So definitely agree. And Z, you were going to say?
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback off what Genesis said. And I listened to this podcast. It's called Pretty Girls in Politics. Really good podcast. It's Black women talking about Black politics. So go ahead and go watch it on Spotify. But they were talking about how they're always like, their argument back to us is like, oh, we're giving you guys the money. You guys choose to put it in athletics. And I think that's a big thing too, is because they only push, especially Black people, to go to college for athletics. And it's like they think that that's our only way out, and it's really not. And so I feel like that's a big argument too, is like they always say, oh, we give you the money, we give you money, but like we don't have the say where it goes. And so it's kind of upsetting how they keep saying that. And it's like we can't put it towards counselors, the school puts it towards athletes. And they're saying, well, look at these rates. Black men are going to college, but they're going to college for athletics. And some of them don't even want to go, but they're going because they're getting the money to go. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And what was that podcast called, Z? So I can note that.
Pretty Girls in Politics.
Pretty Girls in Politics. Okay. Thank you. I'm starting to listen to podcasts, so I definitely want to listen to that. But yes, I agree with everything being said so far. And someone else saying something. Oh, okay. Um, any other thoughts on this topic?
Yes. In terms of funding and just lack of resources, right? Definitely, it's in every place that we go to, right? Where some of us are not going to have the resources that we need, the help and the support that we need, right? And I just wanted to share this quick story as a reference, right? I remember, I'm not sure if it was 2021, 2020, right before COVID. I was giving a speech in front of legislators, asking and advocating for more funding, and the as I finished the speech talking about my educational journey and my history and what we went through, right? It was so powerful that it got their attention, right? And it was able to make some change. And so what I wanted to share is that every single one of you has a story, has a journey, right? And if we come together in the right places with the right audiences, and we share our story, we share our testimony, we share our journey, we share our struggles, right? We can make a lasting change, and we can impact people, and we can have, and because of that, right, we can have the right resources. So it's just a matter of how do we get the right audience, how do we get the right people in front of us who we can share our stories, right? Every one of us, we all struggle with something, especially in the concept of in the context of education. A lot of people have similar struggles, and if we're able to come together, right, and have a community, and then that community turning into us having that right audiences that can help us, we can really make an impact. And the last thing I wanted to say is that yes, there's a lot of struggles, and there's a lot of barriers stopping us constantly from where we want to go, from succeeding as students, as scholars, right? But if we take ownership, and if we can be the ones to make that change, right? There's always a solution, right? But we have to step up as students, right, and represent our people, and just fire away at it, just move forward, always find a solution. I know it's easier said than done when we have so many different stacks of barriers and challenges, right? But remember that you can be the person that helps thousands of people lives from being easier because of what you've done, because of how you stepped up, because of how you took ownership, how you solved that issue that's happening within that same community. So I know it's a huge fight and it's a huge challenge, but just know that we can make a change, right? And look at just in history how far we've come, and we have a lot more room to go, to go and to grow through. But the power is in your hands to make that change, and that it's in the power of unity and us coming together. Because if we're, like what this, I think there's this African proverb, I'm not sure how it goes, or like a video or something I've seen, where it's this father who has a stick and he breaks that stick, and then he has handful of sticks and it's a lot harder to break, right? And so in navigating through these challenges, if we're united, right, it's going to be much harder to navigate through those. So if we come together, we can definitely make some lasting and changes.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We need like a collective thing, and I do think it's possible because we've seen it in the past for sure. So thank you so much for that point. Did you want to talk about your financials thing as well, or?
The financial thing?
Yeah, that you chatted me.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so that was me sharing that speech that I gave in front of them, and I'm pretty sure that I left the college right after that. But because of this, what I was talking about as well, because of me sharing my story as a student and what I went through from coming from Africa to the United States, and kind of how I felt ostracized, and how I felt like I didn't have the right resources, and and how I came to this community, right, which is what I was talking about, the community, and how that community has changed my experience and my view in education. And so I was basically advocating for more funding for that specific community, and it did get approved. And so that's just like, as I was saying, that's the power of our story, right? Our story and our journey can impact so much. Well, they don't know what we go through, right? But if we speak up and if we share our struggles and or what we're going through, it's powerful, and it can definitely get the results that we're looking for.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. That's really cool that you got it approved and everything. Gives me a little hope, honestly. So yes, thank you so much. And Z, were you going to say something earlier?
Oh no, I was just agreeing.
Oh, okay. Clapping again. Sorry, I keep getting confused with the clapping and the raising hand thing. Genesis, you were going to say?
I was gonna say, my senior year, I had a friend, two friends, well, my best friend and somebody else. We got together and we were gonna change a policy in our town, and we decided to advocate for students' mental health and the fact that we needed specific mental health counselors. And the first time that we brought it to them, we were just, throwing out the idea, and they very much just like shut us down. They were just like, "Oh, it's a cute little project for school," and I was like, okay. So then the next time we had a meeting, because they were like, oh, like, let's talk about it after, I think it was like winter break or something. We went back in, and my friend Maddie at the time, she had broken down the numbers in like kind of like how much funding we would need for it and where we could pull that funding from and fundraisers and stuff like this. And so that way they couldn't just be like, well, money, and then shut us down like they did the first time. And so bringing it to him a second time and being like, listen, like, we have it laid out, like, we're telling you, like, this is possible. And then we did get shut down a second time, and we were feeling pretty discouraged. But what I think really turned him around was us as like ASB kids. Like, that's what we were known as, me and Maddie and this other kid. We were known as like people who were seen a little bit, unfortunately, in higher regards to other students. And when we finally shared with them, like, listen, like, we get the best out of everything that these students get because we do things for the school. And so you guys feel like you need to treat us a better way, like treat us. But like, think about the kids who have literally nobody advocating for them at all. Like, and sharing that story and sharing, like, we recognize the privilege that we get. Like, if I say I'm sad and I'm having a hard day, I can skip all my classes. You know what I mean? Like, my ASB teacher would be like, oh, like, yeah, like, you can just stay in the room. Like, I understand that privilege I have, but you realize that all these other students can't do that, because when they have those bad days and they go to a teacher, or they go to somebody and they go, I'm having a really hard time, they get belittled and they told that their feelings don't matter. They're like, oh, you're sad because you don't want to do homework? Well, I'm sad I don't get to do homework. So what makes the difference between me and those other students? Like, oh, because I make posters? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So sharing your story, I definitely feel like does help in certain situations, because they finally started to take us seriously when we were like, listen, this is real. Like, we're not just sitting here being like, oh, we're just trying to get an A. Like, we're trying to tell you that we've had all these like testimonies from these students talking about how they feel like they don't exist in your eyes, and they felt like they haven't existed for their 13 years of schooling, and they're just waiting to get out. And like, don't you want to create an environment where students want to be here and want to actually participate and feel heard? Because like, things happen every single day, and if we're just going to pretend like people aren't people and they don't have emotions, it doesn't work. Like, people don't end up wanting to try, and then they're complaining because they're like, why is nobody testing right, and why are people so upset all the time? And I'm like, because you don't listen, because you don't care.
Dead ass. And especially the stress that Black people feel every day. We got regular stress already living in capitalist America. And then we have being Black on top of it. Like, I would have loved for my teachers to reach out in 2020 when everything was going on in the media with police brutality, because I was not okay. Like, I would have loved to have, I think UW did like a week where they didn't have to do classes or something, because they were trying to do like a mental health week for the Black students. And so, yeah, that's a really good point. Like, even just finding people to help with our well-being, because we have like 10 times more stressors than the average person, and we're trying to get educated, and we're basically, we all know we start at a different level than our white counterparts. We start behind, so we're trying to climb our way up, and we have all these barriers against us. So like, to create equity in the society, we definitely need to have some type of programs better than what we have, which I would think there'd be more. It's 2023, but instead it seems like we're going backwards. So, but Rachel, you were gonna say?
I feel like this is just an accumulation of everything that everyone has said. But I definitely feel like the government in general is just like a bunch of money grubbers. Like that's the whole reason anybody gets into politics. Like they're straight from their mansion into Harvard into politics. Like they don't know the real world. And I really do like that's obviously like it's for specific politics is made for specific people. Like it's been created for that. So it's only certain people can really get into politics and like be like someone important who can make decisions for a huge group of people. And I think that's very like that was very planned out. Like that's not something that just kind of started to happen. It's definitely planned out. And that's trickled down to our schools where it's like the teachers, like they stop caring or like they just get so burnt out because they don't have help because everyone is trying to get money. And these teachers, like they start so good, but they don't have the assistance because everyone above them doesn't care. They got into this business to make money. And if you don't see someone face to face, like it's really hard to try and convince them otherwise. And I really do feel like the normal people who like stand up and like do speeches and like talk to people like at crowds and stuff like that, those are the real people who are making actual change. And like that's just why I'm like, oh my gosh, Brandy, you are the coolest fucking person. Like you are one of those people who are like making true change, because it starts with the regular people, because Lord knows that politicians won't get anything done. They refuse to because they don't think it's worth it. They do not think it's worth it. And it makes me livid with anger, but yeah, I guess that's all I have to say.
It's like they're after the money, right? And it's how am I going to say this? They would rather choose popularity over prosperity, right? Where if they make certain decisions, they're going to step on the toes of the wrong people, and that's just only going to hurt them, instead of really making decisions based on value systems and based on what's important in the community, right? And that's where we can have the impact in voting, right? And really doing our research and due diligence in who are we voting for, what are they about, what are their promises, what are they, and voting based on kind of in alignment with what we need, as a community. And speaking of community, the final thing that I wanted to say is the first step is right, having community, kind of like this, right, where there's people involved, right? It's harder to shut down one person than a group of people, right? I would definitely say that it's harder to shut down one person instead of a group of people. So the first step we've already got, right, and developed is that community, a group of people with the same vision and the same goal, right? And then it's a matter of really just sharing our stories and our voices and being persistent, right? Being persistent. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And it's a matter of, us stepping up as leaders and taking ownership and, being aggressive with the work habit, right? Doing what we need to do to make those lasting changes, but aggressive with the work habit, but patient with the results, right? Knowing that this is something that's going to take time, right? And that it's a mission, it's a vision that's a worthwhile, and it's not going to come easy, right? And just being persistent at it and keeping at it. And so, yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for those points. I'm like typing as you guys are talking so I don't lose my thoughts. For Rachel, I was gonna say, yeah, I agree. A lot of politicians actually, like I was reading about Obama and his presidency and like how he went in with high hopes. He went in starting with policy and stuff like that was nonpartisan. Actually, he was trying to work with both sides, but then like his hopes just got crushed. So then at that point, it's just like, why would you even care? Because it's not really set up for you to care anymore. And those higher up government positions. And then also like when we see our democratic values or just like, our values here in America come in conflict with money, like money always wins every time. And that's the issue we're having here. Like, I feel like we're losing our humanity because we're so focused on money and economy. And so, yeah, I definitely see that as well. And then what else? Oh, for, I can't remember who was talking about it, but it sucks that we do have to take responsibility and like fix these issues on our own, especially because a lot of these issues we didn't cause. Like, we were talking about this in one of my classes. My teacher was like, we have like this issue with pollution and global warming, but instead of doing like a lot of things about it, like as a whole, internationally, they put the responsibility on individuals, and they're like, you have to recycle, make sure you recycle. And that's just like a little band-aid over like the actual issue, which I feel like is a theme we're seeing here, definitely in education as well. So yeah, that's just what I was going to add. Anything else on these points before we move on to Trey? Alrighty then, Trey, if you're ready, you can get started with your piece.
Yes. Sorry, my hand fell asleep. Was on the topic of education, I wanted to talk about what was going on in Florida. And if you guys don't know, a couple days ago, Florida has updated their academic standards, and basically their social studies part of their curriculum, they will include on how slaves developed skills that could be used for their personal benefit. This was passed by I believe the governor, Robert DeSantis, who has said a lot of questionable-ish in the past. He also wanted to pass the Stop Woke Act. And I'm not exactly sure if that was passed. I believe there's a blockage on it, but basically what that stands for is the Stop Wrongs to Our Kids and Employees Act. And basically what that entails, just to give you an idea of him influencing this education and how Black history being taught, the person behind this, and his intentions and everything. According to Florida.gov, that basically means that affirmative action will not affirmative action, critical race theory will not be taught in K through 12 schools. It prohibits schools and colleges from hiring critical race theory consultants, and it protects employees against hostile work environments through the critical race theory training, whatever that means. Just to let you guys know, woke stems from African American vernacular English, so that's something that Black people in this country came up with during the 1930s, which was the lynching era. The era where white mobs, they would hang Black people and take pictures and smile as if they were at the circus. And basically, this was a term coined by us to warn Black people about racial prejudice and racial discrimination, and to stay alert around our surroundings. And so basically, he wanted to stop teaching critical race, or did not want to teach critical race theory, because he does not want white privilege and institutional racism to be acknowledged in a position it holds in this country. And so his, whitewashing and downplaying of slavery is another part of his plan, since his act he's still currently dealing with the lawsuit, being able to pass. So I guess that's on the next part of his plan, is to basically desensitize children from what slavery really was, and to already give a watered down version to Black students, because Florida is majority Black, that I read anyway. To basically give these Black children in the education already an altered history lesson that they're not fully being taught to begin with. So yeah, I'm just wondering what everyone thinks about that. I have no thoughts really, because it's not surprising. I was never properly taught Black history in school. Most of Black history that I learned from books or family members. So this is not really surprising. It's just kind of like another day in America. And the educational system already fails, I feel like, the youth as a whole, and especially as Black youth. So, failing to educate children, I feel like it's right on par. So I want to open up the floor to what everyone thinks. Maybe you guys have more of a um, educated opinion about it. So yeah, I would love to hear what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I just saw that, and once, like you said, not surprising. Also very scary that he is running for president. Like, why do we have these candidates? People always say like, oh, when the old people die off, like everything will be fine. Like we'll have, better politics and everything like that. But like people have been saying that for like, generations, I'm sure. So it's really like, what I forget, is it Ismail? Sorry, or Ishmael?
Ishmael.
Ishmael. Okay. It is really about voting, but also when it comes to voting, tackling the barriers that come with voting, because we do know that the Black community faces a lot more barriers in that area as well, and low income also, and some states make it very hard. So yeah, I'm really scared to see what's gonna happen. Trump was bad enough. I would say this Florida dude is even worse. Yeah, just another example of them trying to hide our history. Like we all know what happened, honestly. So, but Genesis, you were gonna say?
I'm going to touch more on this when I do my piece about what I'm talking about, but I just wanted to say when Trey had brought up that in the policy that he's passing, that it allows staff and teachers to like have protection from whatever, I feel like is enabling abuse to students, because I feel like what that means in subcategory is like if a student in school, a Black student, tries to speak up about something or go like, hey, like this is making me feel unsafe, they can now write it out as that kid's being disobedient or they're being abusive and stuff like that, which allows the teacher to punish them in whichever way they feel like is correct. And now, because this is something that everyone's like, yeah, like we're protecting our staff members, people aren't going to realize that this is abuse to the children. Because I feel like that's what they're trying to hide under that, is like, oh no, staff members are protected because just in case there's backlash. Well, of course there's gonna be backlash. Kids are gonna be confused. They're gonna be like, why are we not learning about Martin Luther King Jr.? Like, what the heck's happening right here? And these kids are gonna get in trouble for it, and they're gonna get like berated. And it's like it's a thing that takes the voice away from the Black student and allows the teacher to direct the narrative in whatever way that they feel like fits them and protects them, and makes sure that, well, I was just trying to do it this way and they became hostile and aggressive and were questioning me on things that we're not allowed to talk about and stuff like that, because now it's so much easier to put the blame on the Black person.
Yeah, it's like Florida's scary right now, honestly, with all of their politics. I saw the NAACP did like a warning for Black people basically to like either stay out of Florida or like be careful in Florida or something, because it really feels like Florida is targeting Black people, which is crazy because there's so many Black people in Florida. So I'm just like, I hate to see it. And this decision is so harmful. Like Trey said, we already are barely taught our history. Like we'll go over Martin Luther King, if we're lucky, Malcolm X, but probably not. And like, so doing this is just like an extra stab in our back, I feel like. And yeah, for me, I didn't even learn anything really about my history until I got to college. Like I had to pay before I could learn about it. So I also saw my teacher said Florida was trying to do something. I don't know if it was Florida or maybe it was somewhere else, but they were trying to make it so young people couldn't vote anymore on campus or something like that. I want to say, yeah, it was like on college campuses, which I think sends another message. Like they're scared of our views, they don't want us voting or making it easy for us to vote. So yeah, I don't know, it's real scary, looking real scary in Florida. I actually liked Florida. I was thinking about, maybe moving there one day. Then I saw all of this and I was like, yeah, never mind. Genesis, you were gonna say? Oh, sorry, your hand's still up, huh? I don't know.
I just forgot to put it down.
Okay. Ishmael?
What I've noticed is a trend, and this is across history, across any time or place or any situation is they try to make us shut up, right? They try to, what's the word for it? I always have the right words, but this one just slipped. It's like they're trying to shut our voices, right? Make us quiet, right? And silence us. And when that happens, right, they get what they want. But if we're not silent about it, and if we talk about it, and if we communicate, right, and that's the power of our voice, right? And then across all the heroes in history who were able to make lasting changes, the one thing they all had in common is they refused to be silenced, right? They refuse to be quiet, because once that happens, then it's a message of saying we give in, right? We give up. But if we're not silent and we are articulate about our needs, our vision, our goals, right? Nobody's going to stop us. And so it's just a matter of being articulate and communicating and refusing to be silent. And I think the issue that I see is so many people are so silent that these things just get, swept under the rug, and nobody talks about it. Nobody spreads awareness, right? And if nobody knows, and if you know, but not everybody knows, right? And when that happens, it's like this some sort of secret, right? That only a few people know, and the majority and the masses are not educated. And that's where they have that power, right? Like they're talking about, especially with the campus, right? That's where a lot of people are aware of what's going on. And if they're trying to silence them, then they're most likely going to win. And so the biggest takeaway here is refuse to be silenced and communicate, right? And articulate and talk and talk and talk and talk. Talk about it. Share your voices. Just know that every single one of you, your voices are powerful and has the potential to change any situation, any circumstance. So just keep communicating, keep articulating, and that will get you a long way.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I'm always like, sometimes, these can get a little sad, and like I forget to like talk about like, what we can do, positive things too, because you just get so stuck in like, damn, fuck America. Like America don't want me. Like, and my situation's never going to change. And I think that's why a lot of people do start being quiet about things, because we're just like, well, this is just the way it is. But that's why it is so important to like not lose hope. And I don't know, guys, I'm thinking that the Black nationalists were right. We gonna have to pick up and leave, because I just don't know if it's gonna happen here in America, honestly. Seems like we're just still not wanted. Like people say we've come so far, but the root issues are still there. Like we're still having some of the same conversations. Trey says, it seems like they're trying to restrict our access to proper education. This is why libraries are important. It's basically free education. Agreed. Like there should be so much more libraries. I worked in a library and I learned so much. Also, I'm in college and I never paid for my textbooks for the last 2 years because I realized I could check them all out at the library and I'm broke. And that was like life-changing for me. So yeah, I definitely think libraries can make a really big difference, especially for Black students and low-income students.
I wish you told me that earlier. Oh my God.
Sorry,
I
yeah.
could have
At
saved so
Eastern,
much.
we have like a borrowing program where we can borrow books from like different universities. So that's why I was lucky to do that, honestly. So yeah, if you guys are in school, check out your libraries. They have like a lot of resources. Trey also said they're banning books in school. Yes, that was another thing I wanted to bring up. Thank you, Trey. They're altering and giving us watered down interpretations of what actually happened in history. They're trying to pacify the true nature of what it took to build this country and what currently goes on in this country to make it run. Agreed. Like they want to act like there's not a problem there when we all know that there is. Like facts don't lie, statistics don't lie, experiences don't lie. A lot of Black parents of color are actually homeschooling their young children because they don't trust public school, and most can't afford private schools, which are predominantly white. We're not wanted only for our labor and our financial contributions to this country. Definitely agree with that. And even in my neoliberalism class, we were talking about how higher education is even changing to be more towards job training and getting you ready to be a good corporate citizen, instead of having like a lot of these philosophy classes and things that grow your mind. Like, for example, at my school, philosophy is getting cut. Like they're cutting these programs first and foremost. They're cutting liberal arts education, which includes Black studies, because they value, like Trey said, our economic contributions to this country. So yes, definitely agree. Ishmael?
Something I want to talk about, and this is something that I'm always in different rooms about and talking about, is the private education and the homeschooling. I'm not a parent yet, but this is something scary, right? Where can you imagine as a parent, you send your kids to school for 8 hours a day and they're being brainwashed and taught all the wrong things, right? The false information, false ideologies that doesn't necessarily align with your values or things like that. And so that's something that is constantly being talked about in so many different communities about the solution to what the public education system is and what the solution is. And I know private education definitely can be expensive. And then the other thing I wanted to cover is the knowledge, right? The books, right? Knowledge is so powerful. If you have the knowledge, you have so much tools under your belt and it makes you more powerful. It just adds so much value to your life. So definitely there needs to be more libraries, and libraries, I feel like libraries definitely in a broad spectrum, but one thing I would really focus on is our mindset, right? Because Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results, right? And we can't get out of a situation with the same mindset that got us into that situation, right? And so once we change our thinking and how we think about and how we view, and most of that comes from the books that we read and the knowledge that we have, right? Our perspective changes. When our perspective changes, how we view and how we see things changes. And imagine if we have more libraries like that, and if we actually motivated and inspired our people to read these books, right? Because I remember in third grade, another person of the same color of skin as me was making me seem as if I was white by loving and reading these books, right? And just that where we're at in that, it's just it needs to be improved.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Thank you so much. And on the banning books thing, it's just crazy to me in a democratic society where we're supposed to like compare views and debate, like literally that's the goal. That's what's supposed to happen in this type of system, that we're banning books. Like we're supposed to have freedoms, but it's like to an extent, the freedoms they give us. And yeah, I just can't believe that that's even a thing. Like it's definitely gonna harm us more than anything else. Sorry, admitting somebody in. Okay. Any other last thoughts before Genesis speaks? She's our last speaker for today.
Hey, it's me. I just wanted to just point out that I feel like personally, things took such a hard, drastic turn because we did have a Black president and a Black female president or vice president. It's almost like the banning of the books and the removing of rights. It's like they're so fearful of smart, powerful people of color that they are now like trying to rip away everything that is a resource for you to succeed and become higher than what they want you to be. And so Genesis and her little group of friends that made change, you hear no, you hear no, you hear no. Don't stop because you hear no. You keep going. It takes one yes. So just keep that in mind. It just takes one yes. And like Ishmael was saying, in front of the right people. So just keep going. Don't give up.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mom. You're right. No means next opportunity, period. Miss Tiffany has a point. Anything else from anybody on this topic? Alrighty then, Genesis, take it away. Also, as y'all see, she did the big chop. She did the big chop. I'm trying to do that. I want to at least do it to like my ears because honestly, all this is thinner. Like it's thin. The rest up here is nice and healthy and thick. So you just gave me like some courage. I'm actually thinking about it. Like the other day, I was literally just about to cut it off. I was like, nah, you know what? I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna plan
You
it
have
out.
to sleep on it. Like that's the thing is like for me, so I've been talking about shaving my head. This is so funny. Sorry, this is off topic to what I was gonna talk about, but so I feel like my mom specifically in my entire life, anytime she needed like a reset, she cut her hair. Like that's just something she did. And for me, I was like, I don't really get it. Like I was like, I don't want to just cut my hair. So I do trims here and there. And like one time I cut like a couple inches off my hair and I looked like Lord Farquaad and I hated it. So I was like really feeling anxious about it. And then like this year I just kept thinking about it. I was like, come on, like I really just want to like shave my head. But there were so many people around me being like, don't do it. Like, wait. And I was like, why? Like, like in my head, I was like, wait, why am I waiting? And then this last week, I had a lot of like emotional stuff happen to me. And I was like, this is a good as time as any. So I said, let's just do it because it honestly was so relieving. And I thought I was going to be like emotional and be like, man, like that took a lot of time to like grow out because like I've never done like a big chop like that before. And I was like, wow, like that's crazy. But it just like it felt so good that I just couldn't find a reason to be sad about it. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I feel so light. And like again, like I was saying earlier, I was really blessed to have a good head shape because otherwise I was gonna be bad. I was like, okay, we're doing wigs because I don't want to have a dented head.
I did the big chop too.
Period.
I was honestly very scared. And that's one of the things is the only way to beat fear is just to, just to go through it. And the expectations you have before and after is way different,
Yeah.
And
it's such a temporary thing. That's why I'm like, why not? Because like in reality, yes, like some people's hair, like I actually learned this today. Some people's hair grow in different cycles. And so like sometimes it'll take people longer to grow their hair back out. Other people, it'll be like in a year. But like either way, it's a temporary thing. And I feel like you should do more things like that in your life where you're like, you know what, like me putting myself out there just for a little bit isn't going to harm me too bad. You know what I mean?
Yes. Thank you so much, both of you guys for sharing it because I feel like I would feel like a sense of relief too. Like you guys said, it's just honestly, it's just hair, like, and it grows back. And so, yeah, I definitely understand it. And it may be coming soon, guys. But like Genesis said, in case I have a weird head shape, I want to learn how to do wigs first in case I regret it after, you know?
Do the glueless wigs because you don't really have to have skills.
Yeah, see, I need that.
Everything. You could just put it on and go.
Literally, because I've seen so many TikToks and I'm like, I don't know how to do all that. I want to, but the glueless ones actually look real. I'm like, dang. Ishmael?
You can just wear turbans.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's that.
yeah. You said it'll grow back, and I was gonna say mine doesn't. But I had so many mess ups. Especially with me having the job that I have, and I'm in a lot of different meetings or traveling for work and stuff. And so I'm in front of like people in high power or places within the different companies. And so many times where I'm lining up my beard and I mess up, and it's just like after going through so many situations like that, I kind of learned this mindset of just like, it's just whatever it is, right? And to really be bald, to be bold, right? And brave, and just like, it's okay, it's not the end of the world. They see this hair, so what, right? It's like it's we put so much emphasis on what people think. They're not going to pay your bills, right? They think a certain way, that's on them. One last thing I wanted to say is that I'm not sure where I heard this from. Opinions are like farts. Everybody has them, right? And so it's just like, it is what it is.
All I wanted to say is that cutting your hair is the best feeling. And when you were talking about it, I was like, yes, I felt that. Because everybody else is always, oh, but it's so good. And I'm like, no, get this off of my head right now. I don't, if you want it that bad, if you like it that much, you can have it. Like, I don't want it. So, I mean, Anne Rainey's, I think you would rock that 100%. I'll shave my head.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Rachel knows about the big chop too. Her hair was like passed her butt before, just so y'all know. You haven't seen that, Rachel, but yeah, she knows about the big chop. Genesis, though, go ahead and take it away with your points.
Yeah, so I'm just going to talk about growing up in an education system that didn't support me at all. And it was like even worse because like my elementary school years, I went to a school that like was super racist. So I grew up in Arlington. I mean, I moved around a little bit, but like I went to all my schools in Arlington, and my daycare experience wasn't really that bad. Like I didn't really have anything from there. There was no racial, there was a lot of mean kids about, fat shaming me, but what can you do? I'm literally 2 years old. Why are you fat shaming me? Anyways, but I went to President's Elementary in Arlington, and I went there from kindergarten to third grade, and I didn't really comprehend what was happening to me until third grade, when I had my second grade teacher moved up with us because she like loved our class so much. And so she was going to be our third grade teacher, but she got pregnant. And so then she had a sub for majority of the year. And the sub basically didn't like me. At first I didn't realize like why. I was like, oh, because like I'm literally like 7 years old. So I'm like, oh, like maybe I'm just annoying or something. Like, why is she being so nice to all the other kids? I started to realize I look a lot different than a lot of the other kids. And I remember that year specifically too, like when I really started realizing, I guess it's so weird to say, but like when I realized I was Black, like I realized there was something like significantly different like about me than someone else, is I got cornrows, and going to school, everyone was just like, you look like a gangbanger. And I'm like, what is that? I'm a child. But like even the staff members were all treating me very inappropriately and basically saying like, first, my hair was a distraction because I would wear it out and it would be too big. And then it was a problem because they were in braids and it looked like I was some sort of gang affiliated something. And I was like, what the heck? Which is also, side note, really sad because I got my hair cornrowed and it was like really important to me because I was like hanging out with my dad during that. And so then when everyone was like, you look bad, I was like, awesome. I was like, cool. I was just hanging out with my dad and this is a cool thing for me, but you ruined it. But anyway, it just was like little things like microaggressions throughout the year where this like sub just like refused to help me on like any of my work and stuff like that. And like even my friends would have all these birthday parties and stuff like that and like would blatantly tell me like my parents don't like Black people, like you can't come. And I realized too, like in this school, a lot of the other Black students were in the special education class. And it was weird because like I would talk to them and I didn't feel like there was any sort of like mental delay, but I was like, how come I'm the only one that's like not, I kind of started to feel like, am I supposed to be over there? And then also like going back to her not helping me, there was a specific incident where I was getting really worked up because I was getting really behind and my mom was getting mad because the teacher was saying I wasn't doing my work, but I would go to the teacher and I'd be like, I need help. And she would refuse to help me. And so there was this one day where I got pushed to my limits. And every time I tell the story, everyone's like, well, you're in the wrong for what you did. But what I ended up doing was I cried and I flipped a desk over because I was really upset. Now, yes, like reacting in that way is not something that you want to teach your kids, but as a 7-year-old who feels like they're not understanding something and is starting to slowly realize that everyone around her is treating her differently, and she grew up in a house being like, no, love yourself, be who you want to be. It's very frustrating. And it's very frustrating too, because your mom, you don't know how to articulate to your mom, I'm not getting the help I need at school because they're refusing to help me because of what I look like. And even all the paras, all the assistant teachers just would not help me. They just saw me as some sort of threat, especially after this incident. I have never seen a grown woman more afraid of a little 7-year-old. She pushed everyone against the walls and basically treated it like it was like I was some sort of violent person. I stood in the center of that room and I just cried. Like I wasn't really throwing anything. Like I just sat there and was like, I'm so frustrated. And she called the security and the principal to come in, and they pushed me to the ground and like pinned me and basically told me like, stop fighting and stop being aggressive. Okay, well, I'm 7 years old and you're pushing me to the ground, so I'm gonna start freaking out because I'm not really sure what's happening. And once I got like dragged down to the office, like I was physically dragged, I was not allowed to come back to class. I was in school suspension. And all they did for that entire thing is call my mom and told them that I was misbehaving. And so for the rest of the year, I spent my class period, or spent the entire day in the office doing schoolwork. And they even had my teacher who was pregnant come and talk to me. And they're like, she's like, why are you acting like this? Like, you weren't like this last year. And I didn't know how to articulate, like, it's not me. It's not me. Like, I'm not like I'm not being treated fairly. And she was like, it's okay, whatever. And basically is telling me like, oh, things happen and you'll be fine. Come to find out, I found this out several years later after I moved to Marysville. They did not tell my mom that they put me in school suspension. They told me that I was being disrespectful. They told me that I was like throwing things, being aggressive, creating an unsafe environment for kids around me. My mom had no idea that they were treating me like that at school because they didn't. Why would you? Why would you say like, oh, I dragged your kid across the floor because her teacher wouldn't help her with math? No, instead you're going to say what you want to fit your narrative. And that's exactly what I was saying earlier about, you know, them passing this in Florida. That's going to enable teachers to do that, to treat their students like literal objects and allow them like, and especially in elementary school, those kids cannot articulate what's happening to them. They can't sit there and go, I'm being abused at school because I'm Black or Hispanic or Asian. Like they just can't say any of that because they don't know what's going on to them. And every single adult around them is telling them that they're the problem because they're acting out. But 90% of the time when a child starts acting out, it's because something's happening, right? There's some sort of something going on with them. And we're so quick to blame the child when in reality, who are the people who are supposed to be molding that child? Who are the people who are supposed to be telling that child who they can be and what they can do? And I feel like the education system in these areas and also just like all over the world are not designed to help these students succeed at all. And it sucks because, you know, through my entire educational journey, even moving to Marysville, not much of a better, you know, Black diversity, but it felt a little bit better because, you know, people actually want to be friends with me. There was more like brown students. I mean, we're right next to the reservation. So there was Native kids. Like I felt a little bit more involved, but yet still there was moments where I was getting these microaggressions and I was being isolated by teachers. And I was like, I don't understand. Like I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm a good student. I get good grades. Like, I don't know what's going on. The only time that I started to be respected in my school journey was when I started doing things for the school. Hence why earlier I mentioned like the school board would not listen to me and my friend until we pointed out the privilege that they were giving us. They don't care about their students, and especially their students of color, unless they are doing something. Point blank period. If I hadn't been on the front cover of the newspaper saying Genesis Lee, Marysville Getchell High School student, they would not have respected me. The fact that they did that because I was giving them good publicity. Getchell provides students who make change, who do these things. But when it came down to me as an individual and what I wanted to do and what my say was, it didn't fit their narrative. And so it wasn't okay. I remember my senior year, I told them, I'm not going to college right after high school. I have a different plan. My mom supports me. They sat me down, they cornered me, and they like basically told me my mom was being abusive and holding me back and telling me all these things about how I can do so much more, all because the end of the conversation, they said, we would love for you to come back and be a staff member here. What? You have plenty of staff here. Why do you need me specifically to come back and be a staff member? Well, because they need that diversity. They need those numbers. They want a Black student alumni who graduated and they formed her to be this amazing person. And now she's coming back and she's helping all these other students. Not to mention my first 2.5 years of high school, they called me hostile and aggressive and angry, but because I went to ASB, I was saved and I was respected. And I was, I'm so happy and I'm doing things for my community. And I just think that's literally the most disgusting thing I've ever heard. The students of color do not get respected at all in any of these school districts unless they are giving something to that school. Otherwise, they do not care if you succeed. They do not care where you go, what you do, as long as you don't look a certain way, don't dress a certain way, talk a certain way, but because you're providing for us, you matter, you know. And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's quite frustrating. And my cousin Keon, you guys all might know him, you know, it's so upsetting because like I didn't realize really kind of what I went through until being out of school for a couple of years. You start to realize the real world is a lot different. He graduated from the same high school I went to, but he literally only went there for 1 year. And the amount of like racial profiling and racism and just the behavior that they exhibited, I was like, wow, for a student who just transferred, and because he isn't involved in anything, he's immediately a threat. He's immediately, it's embarrassing that the school wants to talk about being more inclusive and doing these things to be more inclusive. And the fact that if I was in the same class as him and we walked by, they would have stopped him and they would have told me to have a good day. We're both brown. We both, I'm not light skinned, like the fact that because he was not involved in anything, they saw him as a target and they did everything to make sure he felt that way. And I feel like that is disgusting and a huge problem across America. It's not even just in the rural area that I live in, but even in like lower income, they do not even see those kids as opportunities, as profits, as anything like successful in this world. And so they do not give those kids those opportunities because they are not providing anything to them. And so they feel like, oh, why am I going to waste my time putting time into this kid who's in their head gonna end up in jail or be a gangbanger? Or no, tell that kid they can be a lawyer, tell that kid they can be a doctor, tell them it doesn't matter if they don't want to, they can find something successful because you didn't even give them opportunity. Now we're here and there's nothing happening for these people, and it sucks because they feel incapable and they feel unheard and they feel unseen. And this kind of just goes into everything we've talked about today. They isolate themselves and they don't want to talk about it, and then so when people go out to them like, no, like, listen, like, we can make change, those people are still very reluctant to come out and be like, oh yeah, like, I hear you, because for 13 years minimum they were told that they were incapable by people that were supposed to make them feel safe and smart and educated. But yeah, that was my piece.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I really did want her to share her experiences because I feel like a lot of Black people can relate, people that have been students, it's like just crazy the different treatment that happens starting at early age. Like she said, she was 7 years old. Every time she tells me that story, I get heated, like I get reheated again. And if anybody ever told you you were in the wrong in that situation, oh, fuck them. Like, let me know, who was it? Because that's wild. Like, I just can't believe that happened to you. And I know Gianna had experiences as well, which is her sister. And yeah, Keon did automatically, like, he went from a very diverse school, Mariner, to Getchell because he just wanted to be closer distance for his last year. And he didn't care really. A lot of his friends had moved from Mariner. But automatically, like, I think it was like maybe a month or maybe a few months in, he regretted it because of how that school is. Like, they were constantly targeting him. So yeah, it's really, really sad, but thank you so much for sharing that story. And also I just wanted to praise Genesis because she made so many changes in her school. Like, when I think of activists, I think of you, Genesis, because yeah, like, if it wasn't for her, there would be like no mental health changes, no changes for Black students. Like, she was really using her voice and trying to make things different at Getchell. And I hope, the students that are left are trying to maintain those changes also, because yeah, it's not popping. Like, the Getchell, or no, not Getchell, Marysville, Arlington areas remind me of like how it is out here. Just uneducated and discrimination left and right. Like, it's sickening. Genesis, you were gonna say?
I was just gonna add on how sad it is. Like, honestly, an update kind of on Marysville School District, because I'm lucky to have like a sibling that's in Marysville School District. It's sad because they're flooding out every single person that was willing to speak up and advocate with the students of color, and they pretty much completely wiped the school board because yes, there were some allegations with like the superintendent, but like basically took everybody out with it because a lot of the people on the board were hand in hand working with me and my friends and other students to like make changes in the district. And my assumption, because of course they're not going to tell you the truth, my assumption is because they were doing that and they were actually making progress, they panicked and went, well, because you guys were affiliated with the superintendent, we have to wipe everybody. Which, okay, whatever, rules are rules, but it kind of felt suspiciously timed. And not to mention the fact that like even just this last year, I got asked by Gianna's middle school if they like to help them start a BSU. And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, I would love to like help you guys. And I never got a call back. Every single time I emailed, showed up, anything, I was immediately dismissed. And I kept being like, listen, I don't understand what you're trying to do here, but it seems like I wrote her this entire message where I was like, it seems like you guys are just trying to grab at the fact that like we attempted, but our students weren't interested. So therefore, like, at least we tried as a district. And I'm like, that's not what you're doing. If you actually cared and you wanted to make change, you would have answered me. You would have responded. You would have respected my time. And That's the problem, is if you don't have somebody constantly being there being like, listen, please, changes don't happen. And when I called her out on it, she was like, maybe we can have a discussion about this in the future. I'm just really busy right now. And I went, right. So there's my answer. This is obviously not going to happen. And my sister no longer attends that school. So I'm going to move on and help her be successful in the schools that she does attend. But the lack of want for change in these school districts is sad too. I'm like, you're in a position to do things different here, and you're not taking that opportunity, and you're almost like trying. And I'm like, okay, like I see you, but then you don't want to take the extra steps. And it's not even that hard to just be like, hey, like, this is my idea. How can we execute it? Awesome. Let's collaborate. Let's do it. But instead, you made it more difficult on yourself by not responding and not actually trying. And I'm not, maybe she has a bunch of stuff going on, but it felt very disrespectful because I was making an effort to be like, I'm here, like, tell me what you need me to do. Here are my ideas. And it was not reciprocated.
Yeah, once again, it's just really sad how the responsibility falls on us again to fix problems that we're not creating. We have to be our own advocates, aggressively so, which you did a really good job of in your school. But that makes me sad that they aren't going to be maintaining those changes, it sounds like, but also not surprising for our area. Like, I hope you had BSU at your school, right, Genesis?
Yeah, I was the president of our BSU at my school for 2 years.
Yeah, hopefully, like, they're able to continue to make changes, because I know you guys did make changes for that as well. I do think like mentorship is so important too, like having someone like you who has already done it before and been through it, and going back and helping these BSUs. Like, I want to do that too for like a bunch of schools, honestly. And what else I was thinking about, sorry, I was like trying to think as I was talking about, because I lost my point. But at Mariner, when I went, there was like even things there that I wanted to change. For example, we had like a no do-rag policy and stuff like that. But like, I don't know, I just never got around to it. And then once I graduated, like, it was my biggest regret. Like, I tried to pass it down to like some other Black students that I knew, but it was like, that should have been something I pursued more, and I regret it. So I definitely think, like, if you guys see issues that you want to change, like, don't be afraid to go after it. Do it before it's too late, because yeah, I don't think they have that policy anymore anyways at Mariner. They kind of just gave up on the dress code now, apparently. But it used to irritate me because students would literally get in trouble. Even on Spirit days, they would be wearing like a blue and gold do-rags, like, and you're gonna make a problem of that, really. But yeah. Z, you were gonna say?
Yeah, I just want to say first, shout out to Genesis for real. That's amazing, and I just love hearing stories like that. Back in my high school, I don't know if you guys know, I went to Rainier Beach High School for 1 year, then I transferred to Spokane Public Schools, so I went to North Central High School, and it was like the same exact thing. We actually couldn't even name our Black Student Union because our principal said that it's not inclusive for everybody, and I fought back with that and still couldn't. And it's just, I don't know, it's just sad to say, like, I did the same thing at that school. It was just, I had to put out articles. You guys look it up. You guys can look it up right now. Zaire North Central High School. I had to call out the school and newspaper for them to listen to me. I used to get so much backlash from them. Like, we had incidents with people calling each other the N-word. There was teachers saying the N-word with the ER to other students. Luckily, he got fired. But like, there were so many issues that we had to bring up as Black students, and they wouldn't do anything. And it's like, we had to go to a bigger source and for them to listen. And I got so much backlash for it. But now my picture's up at North Central High School for honorary alumni for 2020. That's crazy, because I did all those changes and now you guys want to recognize me for it. But when I tried to do it beforehand without the superintendent, without the newspaper, you guys gave me so much backlash. I got taken out of class for it. I missed so much class for that, because they're like, Zaire, you can't do this. This is not acceptable. Or like, you can't be telling teachers they can't say this. Why is he saying the N-word? There's no, like, he's not an English teacher. He's an art teacher. There's no point of him saying the N-word. So it just kind of amazes me how that we have to do all the work and we get so much backlash, but then when it happens and like he gets fired, or when we get these clubs, or we get, mental health counselors and mental health days established by Black students, they want to take the credibility for it, saying, oh yeah, but we helped them. But no, you didn't. Like, it's just so weird. So congratulations to you. I love hearing that story. Kind of make me tear up a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. You guys both are really good with like the mentorship and like making changes and everything. So shout out to both of you guys. And that's just crazy, Z, that they wouldn't even let you freaking call it Black Student Union. Like we already don't feel like we belong in school. And then you're not even gonna let us have our little club, a safe where we can finally, or a space where we can finally feel safe and like we belong. Like that's wild. White people have everything else. Why can't we
Yeah,
just have a club?
it's so crazy. And then especially like that club that we did, we made a whole new course. It is called like multicultural course. And so because our school was getting backlash for not having like a course that teaches, African American culture, Hispanic culture, Asian culture. They're getting so much backlash. I think you guys can look it up. It's public information now. And so my club was like, okay, let's just make a course. So we did. Now it's implemented in 25 Washington State high schools, and they're taking all the credit for it. We did the research. We had many teachers come out from Spokane, California, and I believe Oregon to make this certain course, and they took all the credit, which actually makes me mad till this day that they're taking the credit for that, saying that, oh, North Central did this, but it's really the students. Sorry, I just had to bring that one up because I'm so mad about that to this day.
Yeah, no, rightfully so. Like they only want to use Black bodies when it benefits. Ishmael, though, you were gonna say?
Yeah, couple points to piggyback on a couple things that was said. Especially in hearing about the struggles, right? The resistance. And so this is more of for anybody who wants to be able to continue doing that change, expect that resistance. Expect that resistance. There's a theory in physics, right, that says if I'm not really good at science, but that's something that always stuck to me is if there's movement, there's going to be friction. And that's how you know that you're moving forward with anything in your life, is if you're facing that friction, if you're facing that resistance, that's how you know, right? And so just know that whenever you try to undertake a new project, you will face that resistance, right? Just like both of you guys have, faced. And so just expect it, right? And the other thing I wanted to say is, I feel like the biggest impact for me was being part of a community, right? And for anybody here who is in, a university or whatever school that you guys are at, I would find a community. If there's no community, make one, right? Take that ownership, just like how Rainice is doing here with our daily and weekly, our semi-monthly meetings, right? To make a change, to have a community, to come together, right? I feel like that's where the power is, and that's where you're going to feel like you belong. That's where you're going to have that support to enable you to succeed and to break through whatever obstacles and challenges. And the final thing I wanted to say is a shout out to Rainice. Just incredible leadership. So much planning, right, that goes into these meetings and what you're doing and the work that you're doing. I know I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. It's just incredible. And these kind of, roles and these projects are what really changes people's lives for the better. And so just know that you should be very proud of yourself, that you are an amazing leader, and that this will continue to be in places and have impact that you would never thought you would have. So thank you.
Thank you guys so much. And thank all of you, because you all really have been pretty consistent coming to these and showing support, even if you can't come. And I really do appreciate it. This was a really good discussion. I'm starting to think that maybe since I said I have to cut back on doing Zooms, probably, maybe I'll do it when there's relevant topics going on in the media. It seems like that generated like a lot of discussion. So that might be the new move for the Zoom sessions. Thank you for everyone who shared. I had a few last points before we end. On the way to justice, I forgot to say, sorry, they're not just a Spokane organization. I was trying to find the text from my mentor where they said everyone they help, or let's see, they represent clients in 27 of the 32 counties. So yeah, they don't just stay in the Spokane area, which is why I thought it was a good organization as well. Like they go everywhere in Washington is what my mentor told me. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be a really good organization to donate to. And then there's something else. Oh, no, I think that was it. But yes, any last thoughts before we close? All right, thank you guys so much for joining, and thank you so much. Sorry, I completely, because I was thinking of something else. Thank you so much, Ishmael, for the praise. Thank you, Rachel, oh, she left, for the praise also. Like, I'm just glad that we're all able to have these discussions, because you don't get to have them a lot, like on a daily basis, I think. So it's nice, like stimulating the mind, also just venting and talking about relevant things, talking about solutions even, and then also getting together to do things like donate to a cause and stuff like that. So yes, thank you guys so much for making it possible, and I'll see y'all next time. Let me know what topics you guys want to see for next time.
Thank you so much.